and welcome to the January 5th, 2016 meeting of the Woodbridge Board of Police Commissioners. We're going to take our agenda items out of order. Ray, would you start with the ceremony?
Okay. First of all, I'd like to have Larry Dickovic, our citizen. Could you just come up here? Sergeant A.J. Capello and Officer Matt Iannucci. First of all, I just want to indicate that this is an extreme pleasure for me. I conducted the investigation on this, and these three are true heroes in the eyes of the public, in the eyes of the police department, and as well as the town. The video, although you did review it and you saw it, you know, when you put it in perspective, it was incredible. I mean, the car was totally involved in flames, and you know, they did, all three of them risked their lives to save the individual that was operating the car. What I'd like to do is I'm just going to read off a brief synopsis of what occurred that night, and then I'll present them with awards. And First Selectman Alan Scolatar would like to say a few words before, after I present the awards. Okay. Gotta use my glasses here. Based on the investigation on August 27, 2015, a motor vehicle accident, it was evident that responding officers, Sergeant A.J. Capiello and Officer Matt Iannucci, arrived on the scene to immediately experience extreme adverse conditions with a high degree of danger. Without hesitation, both officers worked together with the help of a private citizen, Larry Dickovic, to no doubt save the life of the operator of the vehicle by pulling him from the car, which was totally engulfed in flames. Their prompt and alert action ultimately saved the life of this individual. And I'd like to... Matt, here's your copy of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Larry Dickovic. For a second?
Yeah, thank you. So I knew this was happening this evening, and I just wanted to come myself to thank you on behalf of all the town. It really means so much to everyone to know we have such brave heroes, really, in our town. And I know for you two officers, you're trained for this kind of situation, and yet I'm sure it's very different when you're faced with it. And you showed such exemplary conduct, and for a private citizen to come out and do what you did is really extraordinary. And on behalf of the entire town, we thank you so much and commend you for your bravery and for saving a life. You can't do better than that. So thank you all so much.
Hey guys, can we just get a couple of pictures before we start the rest of them?
Oh, sure.
Of the board?
What did you do?
Oh, that's a nice one.
Very nice.
Good. Thanks. One more. Yeah. Oh, let me get it out of the way.
Oh, yeah, you're sneaking in. Now you're just
I was holding that.
There you go.
Thank you.
Nice job,
Thank you.
guys.
Very
Thank you.
nice, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jay.
You guys have to stick around?
We don't. No.
So now, okay, December 1st minutes. Take a look at that.
Make a motion to accept the,
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, unanimous.
Thank you.
Public comments?
None tonight.
No one from the public? Financial report?
Looking at it, obviously, overtime police officers stands out. And then we have an overture in investigative services, the overtime. What I'd like to do, I'd just like to get permission from the board. I'd like to transfer $2,000 from the State Bar Narcotics Task Force. It's a stipend that we have. It's, part of the special funds that we have, and then just put it in that, so we're able to use that for. Pardon me?
Put it in which category?
The 5431 is investigative overtime. So investigative services has a cache of funds there that they can use if they need it for investigations.
And since it's a discretionary fund, do we have to make a motion for that, Janice, or is that something that we can just, want to be safe and make a motion?
Safer probably to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Make a motion that the funds be allowed to be transferred as requested by the
Yeah.
directing team.
Second, those in favor? Unanimously.
Thank you.
And then we have some overages in some of the other accounts, but mostly of those accounts like repair, maintenance, machinery within the department. It shows that we're over $3,000, but that's associated with purchase orders that are active that just take up that amount. Do you have any questions at all regarding finances? Other than that, we're about right on track.
Motion to accept the financial report.
Second it.
All those in favor? Unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Is there anything unusual in the activity report?
No, not really. I said we're a little low in activity for the officers' activity, but then
Did you say you're a little over or under?
Low.
in activity.
Question.
I was gonna say, I
A
thought,
little over where?
no, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you properly.
You said you thought you were a little lower. Just
No, it is a little low, and I just wanted to make a comment that the month of November we were down in officers. That was probably the most affected month, besides probably the month before that. But in October it got real bad. As we go into November, December, we had the 2 officers that just graduated the academy. Like I said, as we go into December or as we have going into December and go into January, you're going to see probably going to see an increase in activity from especially officers' activity. Only for the mere fact we have the 2 officers on the road. They're being instructed by 2 FTOs. They're going to have a lot of activity. They're going to be stopping a lot of cars. So we're going to see a buildup of a lot more motor vehicle. And then based on their training, hopefully they'll continue that when they get out on their own.
Could you remind me, how many officers do you have on the road during the day, in the evening, and at night?
Normally now, probably about 95% of the time, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, I said we're probably running with about 2 officers per shift. Occasionally we'll have 3, but it's not very often. Especially during the holiday season, it was almost every single shift was 2 officers. And that's because of staffing. We're low on officers. Vacation requests, vacations, and just shortage. Normally, without the shortages and full staff, we probably staff between 4 and 5 an officer per shift
On the road?
on the road. Unless you have vacations or or
So
book
4 or
offs.
5 cars, or 1
Pardon?
officer per car?
1 per car.
And when we see, like with officers Prentice, Rizzuti, Calabrese, 10, 12, 15 stops and other people have 0, 1, 2, 3, is that just because they were on duty 5 times as often, or is something stylistic going on?
It could be they're more active than the other officer. It could be that the other officers have. I could go down and explain to you. For the month of November, let's see the high ones. Kevin Prentice, he works evenings. He's a very highly motivated officer. He's one of our FTOs, so you're going to see him producing a lot of activity. Officer Rizzuti, another activity. Officer Calabrese is high. Same thing. These are high motivated officers. These are officers that are just they're 2 per shift. Right now, we're running with, how many, Jeff? 8, 7 officers that are working all 3 shifts?
I think it's like 9 with the rotator, 9 or 10.
And some have special assignments.
Oh, so that'll keep them busy or less busy or
Right, or
something, right?
workers' comp, yeah.
Well, Mr. Lynch won't have any because he's over at the elementary school.
Oh, so one hopes it's not a lot of
Right,
stuff.
right, exactly.
The 7-year-olds.
Right, they're not driving too often or something like that.
That's good to hear, thank you.
We had 5 burglaries during the month. We had one on Pease Road that I actually told you about last month. It was early in the month. That was the one where they burglarized the full home and then they went back afterwards.
Yeah.
We had one on Apple Tree. They had ransacked the house on at that location. One on Alling Avenue and one on North Pease. We had 6 larcenies during the month, and we had a couple at the JCC, one at the high school, one at the Harborside, which is one of our healthcare facilities, and We actually had two down at Crest Lincoln. One was for tires and the other was for rims off the vehicles.
What happened at the JCC?
It was just probably a theft out of one of the lockers. We did have a motor vehicle accident involving one of our patrol vehicles during the month of December, actually on December 12th, which resulted in the vehicle being totaled. It was an incident where Seymour was chasing a vehicle coming into our town. The officer wasn't aware of it. The subject vehicle tried to pass him right at Rimmer Road as the officer was turning onto Westward and sideswiped him. And, like I said, the vehicle was totaled. Minor injuries, hopefully. It was actually Sergeant Capiello who was working the shift that night. Totals the vehicle. What I'd like to do is I'd like to get a motion from the board to utilize asset forfeiture money to move forward in replacing that vehicle. I've already got a replacement price for the vehicle from our insurance company. What they're going to do is they actually gave us $19,425 for the 2013 vehicle. We're going to take everything out of the vehicle. I mean, nothing got damaged, right, Frank, in the vehicle, and we're just going to put it right into a brand new vehicle. They will allot us money for removal of all that equipment and money to reinstall it, but I won't get that money until afterwards.
So what do you need?
Pardon?
How much do you need?
I don't know what the cost is going to be right now. It's just to move forward, because what I have to do is, actually Sergeant Capiello is doing the paperwork for me, and we're going to put a request into MHQ, who has the state bid. They'll give us a quote on the car, and then I have to go to I have to send a letter over to the Board of Selectmen requesting to bypass the purchase policy for the town to go with the state bid. And then this is normal practice that we do with all our purchases.
Do you have enough money in asset forfeiture?
Yes, I do.
So should we authorize up to a certain amount so that?
Probably around $10,000. I don't think it's going to cost that much.
So if we authorize up to
$10,000,
you think that would be
that'll-
enough? Or do you want to ask for more up to if you, I mean?
No, I don't think.
What's the realistic price?
Pardon?
It's not going to be over 10 grand, right?
No, I don't think they're giving us 20 grand for the car.
Right.
We're
Okay.
yeah.
So we just authorize up to 10,000?
That's what I would suggest.
Up to but not to exceed.
Right.
Okay.
And if for some reason it doesn't, I'll come back next
Come back
month
to the
and ask you for more.
So I'll make a motion that we authorize the acting chief to
Second.
transfer up to $10,000 to purchase the replacement vehicle.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Unanimously passes.
I just wanted to mention something that, and I'm pretty sure I'm correct. After that accident, I don't believe you missed a shift.
No.
Am I right?
No, I
I think
did
that's something that's noteworthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's your hearing?
What?
That's it. You give a straight line to the car.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
That was a softball. I was asking for that.
I hurt myself up.
We rehearsed that, by the way.
Thank you, Steve. I didn't mention.
Yeah.
It's a little bit muffled still, but they said it was pretty much like a concussion of the eardrum and the...
Is that from the airbag?
Yeah, from the airbag and the impact, and that hopefully that the nerves will grow back in time.
I'm confident I violated a number of HIPAA laws by asking that, but I was concerned, and I thought everyone else should know that was, significant
Right, I appreciate
and
it.
scary. So
Yes.
I'm glad that.
Yeah, I'm glad if that was the only thing that happened,
Right.
I'm thankful for.
Hopefully that'll clear up.
Thanks.
And that's it for activity.
Okay.
Unless you have any specific questions.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Steve?
Sorry.
That's right. Thank you.
Motion
That's my motion, right?
So we can move on to the update on body cameras.
Actually, well, he's not here. I was actually going to show you. We do have a body camera actually John Calabrese, one of our officers, he's actually was trained in it today and has it on him right now. He actually just came in and just told me just a little while ago that he actually used it. He went to an assault down at one of the healthcare facilities. But yeah, we're on track with the body cameras. The lieutenant's promised me that we'll have it all completely in place by
February 2nd.
your next meeting, February 2nd. It's extensive training associated with the new policy came out from the state.
Right.
So that's why we waited for that, and now we're implementing it. So it's at least 2 hours, minimum of 2 hours each officer for training in use of force and use of the equipment, or use of the camera. But it looks like it's going to be good. Very positive on the officer's part too.
It's not cumbersome, they're able to...
That's why if he comes back in, I mean, I'll show you. It's very,
Good.
I mean, I have it on my desk. I have a little, I don't have the DVR with it.
Oh, yeah,
I have the
no,
camera.
if you want to show him. It's, I mean, we actually picked this because you really can't tell it's on the officer. And it's the same company that we have our video cameras in our cars. So we use the same equipment. I know you had a concern about
Yeah, this is
storage
it.
and things
So
like that.
tiny.
So basically, like a DVR hooks up to this, you throw it into your pocket, and then you just turn it on, a little light comes on, and that's it. It gives a nice wide angle. I'll tell you, it's an HD, and it sounds good also. So you clip it to one of your buttons on your shirt.
Are those as durable as GoPro type cameras? Because I mean, it's not as if you're in a fixed tripod scenario. You're in active.
Yeah.
You're moving around.
Do you know?
No, I
Sony or
don't
something?
know, but I suspect probably not. I don't think that to that extent. I mean, you don't even know. Like I imagine most people wouldn't even know we had it on.
And it's
Yeah,
on
sort
the
of
whole
blends in.
shift, or you only turn it on when you're doing something like going to the assault?
When you have law enforcement activities.
Right.
That's what the training is all about, because the policy that we adopted is very specific, when to use it, when not to use it, when to turn it on, when to shut it off. So it's
It's a DVR.
a good product, and hopefully it's going to work well.
In regard to the other three agenda items on E, I'm going to wait until after. I think we should wait until after executive session to discuss those.
Or should we discuss it in executive session?
Yes, initially.
And do we have to make a motion then to go out of
To move them?
order, to move into...
Do you want to finish the rest of the agenda?
That was the goal.
And the rest of the agenda, right?
Yeah,
Excluding those?
if we could.
Okay, that's fine. So you want to...
So moved that we alter the agenda as requested.
And
Somebody
Second,
Thank you.
yes. All those in favor? Unanimous. Workers' comp?
We still have 2 officers out right now. One of our workers' comp cases I'd like to discuss in executive session with you, only for the mere fact that the action that I'm going to recommend to you, and then we come out of executive session and make the motion.
Budget review.
Under personnel matters, did you want to do the...
It's technically new businesses.
You want a new
Sure.
business instead? Okay, so budget, right?
Can we go right into budget? I sat down 2 occasions with Commissioner Gilbride, and I mean, you have a copy of my
Despite
summary.
that, it came out coherent and it
My summary is something that I started when I first started doing the budget, and it kind of outlines, it helps Town Hall understand where I got the figures from in some cases. Everything down from page 1 to almost down to the end on page 2 is contractual. We really don't have any, there's nothing I can do about those figures.
Are you talking about page 1?
Pardon?
Did you say page 1?
Yeah, page 1 and page 2 are
Our packet has two,
Yeah, two different.
two.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on this.
Attachments. The first page is the
Summary, which...
budget line justification
The item,
summary.
Right.
Yeah. It's really easier to look on this particular one right here. If you have this one.
That's
Budget line justification summary.
it's on
Okay.
the back of it. Keep going.
Now, would you agree this is easier to understand, or?
Yes.
Or the other one?
No, this one. Well, this is the one we went over.
This
This is the one that you and I went over. That's whether it's easy. It's what we did.
This page 1.
And the first 2 pages are basically straightforward. They're all contractual. The figures I got directly from Town Hall. I just compute them in. Officer salary, I basically determine that based on who's going to be replaced, at what big pay grade, but there's still going to be some type of change to this as we go into negotiations with the collective
That's why it's
bargaining.
projected. I mean, I'd rather just talk about, quite frankly, about the things that aren't contractual, the things that you can affect.
That's fine.
You know, the only question I have is why, you know what I'm gonna ask, right?
Overtime.
Yeah,
That's what we discussed it at length.
okay, all right, we'll talk about it. If you discuss it, that's fine.
No,
I'll ask you the
that's-
question.
I also told them be prepared for Steve to ask a question during the meeting.
No, I don't wanna belabor it. You know, Commissioner Gilbride, and you discussed it.
The
No,
projected
I
is
had a fair
high,
amount.
and we had concerns why it was high, and we discussed it
Correct.
during our last meeting a year ago. Can we come up with a more realistic, what we thought would be a more accurate projection? We came up with a number for the proposal for the next budget, and it was adjusted after you consulted with across the street to come up with the number that's presented here. So that's the realistic proposal. If we're getting the officers in that we think we're going to get, the overtime should be reflective of what is here. That's it.
I mean-
We're hoping and
So
keeping
you're
our
telling me
fingers
that, well, I mean, again, I don't want to belabor and waste the commission's time with this. We could always
No,
discuss it
but
at
we
length in
should.
another.
Yeah.
No, because the numbers are, you've obviously spent time in this, you've deduced what you feel it's going to be. I just go back to what I've said before, that historically it was always 65, 70,000, 75,000, and there's been some anomalies that have taken place that are no longer anomalies.
No, they're not.
And I think that that's something that, you know, has to be talked about. That's why I just don't buy, if you're going to have new officers and you're going to be replacing other people that might be retiring at lower numbers, how you could possibly come up with 120,000 as a realistic figure. And if that's a realistic figure, then I think that's something we as a commission have to really work on to give you the power to
adjust
to
the
get
salaries.
to adjust things so that it's a more realistic or more reasonable and palatable number for the town.
I mean, it would be nice to get a more reasonable amount that's approved for us. Because when they approve 90,000, when you go across the street, and they very well know that it's going to be 150, that affects our budget. You know, the underlining at the end of the year. Fortunately, you know, in the last 11 years that I've been doing it, 12 years, I mean, we haven't gone over budget. But you know, there's going to be a time where, you know, if you keep on cutting that, and we keep on going up higher.
It can't be
in
too low
overtime.
because it's an unrealistic figure if it's too low.
Correct.
You got to find a number that makes sense, you know, from a budgetary standpoint for the town, the commission, and for the police department. I mean, the guys, if it's legitimate overtime, it's legitimate overtime. I mean, I understand if something happens at the end of a shift and someone has to, you know, file an accident report, he's supposed to be off at 3 and it takes him till 8 o'clock at night to do it. I understand that's legitimate
I wish it was
overtime.
still like that, Steve. I wish it was
Well-
still like that. It's just, and I can remember years ago, that's how we controlled it, where the supervisors would determine whether the officer stays or not, and that's what would cause overtime. But there's so many more variables in the last.
No, and I understand,
10,
so I
15
understand that
years.
you're up against a different
Yeah.
set of rules than 5,
Staffing
6 years
being one
ago.
of them.
Right.
You know, it's like what I just, you know, when I said officer salary. It's in some cases, you know, and I even talked with Tony across the street, Tony Genovese, the finance director. It's a guesstimate. I mean, I'm guessing in some cases because I don't know whether you're going to approve that we're going to have a certified officer. Am I going to have somebody that I don't have to send to the academy? Are we going to be, you know, we're going to be down officers
But you
for a
have,
longer
but
period of time?
you already know what the number is at full staff, whether it's, what is it, 28 officers if I'm not
Correct,
mistaken.
yeah.
So you have a pretty good idea what that number is going to be. One of the variables, and it is a variable, is the overtime. And I think one of the goals has to be to, and I think it's got to be, you know, it's got to be something that you as the acting police chief have to look at. And I think it's something it's a huge number.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a huge number. I mean, what's your total budget? 2.3 million? And $120,000 line item is the overtime, right? And you're telling me it's a more realistic figure might be 150. That's a pretty good number.
Oh, absolutely.
Seven, you know,
And in some cases, that's being conservative. When we're down 6 officers,
I understand that, but I'm saying assuming that you have full staff, I think that's when you need to.
but I can't assume we're going to be at full staff. And I don't even know when.
When you're
we will
hiring
be full
officers, we're
staff.
giving you the ability to hire officers. We're hiring another certified officer. We have people in the academy that are coming out. So this all adds to your ability to effectuate that.
Oh, absolutely.
What drives the overtime in the other categories? What drives the overtime in the other categories?
Same type of things, staffing. Most departments are down. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I mean, Orange is down probably several officers, and they're still hiring officers.
No, I mean, in the other category, not the other towns.
Other categories.
Oh, and the
Other
other
categories.
Like
What drives the
clerical. and-
overtime training and
Oh, I mean, that's just,
dispatch.
That's what we talked about. I told them what we expect.
clerical. Janice working tonight. Overtime for records. Some of the special meetings that Janice has to attend. Those are for clerical overtime.
Is there
I can
overtime?
that's pretty straightforward. I can compute that out and be just about right.
Is
on
there
money.
overtime when a new officer comes on and they're driving with a trainer to see if that's overtime as well?
Correct, there's overtime
Even new
associated
officers
with
coming
that.
on generates overtime for the existing officers to train those officers, so.
That's considered training overtime that they would do. We give.
That's one of the
to
categories,
officers.
that's the third category you'll see.
It's the needs of the department that, we did it. And in some cases, I hate to use the analogy, but it's the cost of doing business. Right now, it's costing a lot of money for us to do business as far as overtime, because we are short.
It's 5% of your budget.
Oh, yeah.
Get that in your head.
I'm not an attorney, so I don't always divide by 3.
That's why I couldn't do it. That's why I couldn't do it. That's exactly right.
But,
You divide by 3 if you're an
Steve,
attorney. It's not-
yeah, I know.
I'm
That last comment was directed for me.
I understand it's part of the
Yeah.
business.
But
I
other-
really do.
Yeah.
But I think a manager needs to manage the money.
I think we'd like to get up to a point where the projected overtime is more as it was 10 years ago, rather than being as high as it is.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Because that will reflect a more accurate,
Well,
I don't expect, I mean,
For those of us who are
10 years
new,
ago is much different.
Yeah.
Those of us who are new, what's the difference between now and 10 or 15 years ago? I mean, I run a very small business. I have 26 employees. And one of my big things is to control overtime.
Needs and the wants of the town, not so much the department. All right? For example, the overtime associated with, having officers for events like on Halloween, Pease Road, or on Penny Lane. Things where, we're required to do a lot more, and we have to hire officers to do that.
Well, the big-
Especially when we're
But the big
understaffed.
change was the,
Well, we get into other logistics.
Right, so I mean,
I
and
prefer
then-
not to do that in open
right,
session.
right, I agree.
I can give you an outline in executive session exactly where,
You might
where
want
a big portion of the wants, but it is the needs and the wants of the town, not so much the department.
Ray, how
because
much do you think of that number is attributed to being down officers? I mean, if you were at a number of officers to fill those slots, would that number be significantly reduced? Or
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because, and that's how I did it. I get, for my original, I'm gonna come out, I come down $28,000 after talking to,
So
he requested me to come down. That's
Out of
what
that
the
150, what he's
anticipation.
asking
One of the issues that this is something officers want, because one of the problems with overtime is you've got people who are overworked and overtired. But is this something they want because it's additional pay, or is it something that they're mandated to do?
I think that they can get used to it. I think the officers can in fact get used to having this overtime, and once it's not there, we get up to full staff, we can re-look at the whole picture and see where we're going. Do we have any, I mean, we're part of statewide narcotics. We have an officer over there. We have 2 officers that are, one assigned to the high school, one assigned that we didn't have before. That gives us that shortage that we have, even if we were at full staff. Like I
But
said,
a great question is, out of that 150, what percentage is because of a lack of availability of officers because of either workers' comp or other variable?
I hate to quote, but I would think it's probably 40-50% right now.
So you're saying,
We're averaging what,
Like
five shifts a day. 5 shifts a day.
5 shifts. No,
Oh, 5 shifts
5 shifts a week.
a week.
A week.
So we're down 5 officers?
We were down 6. when this was really bad.
And right now we're
We had
5.
3 in workman's comp, and we had 3, we were minus 3 officers. We had 2 in the academy, and we had 1 that
No, so that makes
retired.
sense that you're gonna be, that your overtime is gonna be affected, you know, in a, you know, grossly because of that. So I think that, you know, once you have these officers, now that you have them back from the academy, we have a certified officer that we've committed to, that should give you the ability to affect that number. That's all
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
saying.
That's why I use 40 to 50%. It will affect it greatly. You'll see the activity, you'll actually see the overtime go down, you know? Will it go down drastically? I don't think it will be where we really, you know, it's overnight it's gonna be that way, you know, because, you know, it's gonna be.
Well, if you have a full
we're
staff and people are
fortunate,
healthy,
another 2 years before we're full staff. And that's a guesstimate. I know because we have, you know, and it depends whether we hire certified officers, do we go with the academy? You know, 6 months to get somebody through the academy and get them on the road, 6 months to almost a year sometimes. It's just, it's time consuming.
well, thanks for
And
answering
during that period, the officers get used to this overtime too, you know, and we gotta be careful of that.
Well, financially, we're better off being at full staff. It seems like dollar for dollar, that's a,
Right, well, you're paying people not to work. Paying people not to work. Right. Because whether it's workers' comp or whether it's other reasons, you know, they're on the payroll.
And there's other variables, you know, safety and everything else that goes into there. I mean, and I don't know, I mean, these are 2 sergeants that are sitting over here right now, you know, and they're supervisors. They don't like having to work with another officer, and they have to fill a shift and be a supervisor at the same time. So that's a whole other dilemma that we're in as far as our staffing goes. I mean, you know, that's worse than the overtime issue. I mean, you know,
That's why I said
you're expecting them
before.
to supervise with one officer, supervise what they're doing, and get the job done. You know, and provide a service to the town.
That's why I mentioned, I mean, that's the type of guy you want to have on your team. Unless he's really, you know, not that others aren't, but, you know, I thought it was noteworthy.
But
All right, thanks. I didn't mean to belabor the overtime.
No, okay, I knew it.
Every year
I
I
knew it
seem
was
to-
coming.
Every year I
Mr.
seem
Gearby, we
to,
discussed it at length.
we seem
Do we need
debate
to make a
that.
motion for that? To make, or is it, he has to make the presentation at the,
You want to approve the operating budget, the proposed operating budget to be submitted.
When do you have to,
It was
already
due
due.
on the 31st.
Already due.
This usually happens during this
Right.
time of the year, and Tony just said, you know, when the board feels.
when do you have to present it to the,
Well, we
Board of
present it to the Board of Selectmen.
Later this month. It's later this month. I don't know.
so we have.
We need
I have
to-
the first meetings take place later this month.
Can I just want to make one comment on it, and, you know, most of it's all, hasn't really changed, you know, they're very, you know, dollar amounts. The only significant change, and Susan Jacobs can relate to this, is almost the last one on page 7, electric street and stoplights. Over the last couple of years, we've had DBL Realty, we pay the electric bill for one of our repeater sites down at that location. It was the recommendation of Northeastern to keep this site, even if we moved. There's a plan to move it up to what used to be the AT&T tower, up the new tower up on Litchfield Turnpike, up behind Shepherd's Farms. I told us had a discussion with Tony about this, and I'm referring to Susan because she's on the committee. It was recommended that we keep that site, because if we move that site, the Flats is not going to have the communications that we have today. And I kept that in my budget. I actually budgeted for it this year. Past years, I just put it there, told you about it. This year, I told Tony I wanted to keep it. I actually put it in the budget. So that's like an $8,000 increase right off the top. And what we'll do is, and we'll determine what we're going to do down the road as far as
no, but that makes
payment
sense.
of that. I'm sorry.
That's a great decision.
Oh, I mean, you know, it had to be done. I mean,
Right.
we had to keep it there.
Take the compliment.
So do we need a motion?
I think we
to
do,
approve?
yes. I make a motion that we, the operating budget as proposed by the acting chief.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimously approved.
Thank you all.
The old business.
None?
Under new business, Tony Genovese had asked that I clarify a motion that we had at the last meeting regarding the stipend offered to now acting Chief Ray Stewart. It was unclear from the minutes that were sent to him, the amount, and we need to clarify that. The numbers are in the budget. So it was I believe it was the intention of the board that the stipend was going to be the difference between the line item of the police chief's salary and the deputy police chief's salary. Tony would do that calculation. For some reason, that wasn't clear. I'd just like to make a motion that was our intention,
That was our
Yeah.
intent.
and that's the stipend that we'd like to
Yeah.
have him paid.
Second, yeah.
So is there a motion?
That's the motion.
Okay. Then there's a second. All those in favor? Thank you.
You want me to figure that out?
Sure.
Take it out of the open number.
That wasn't clear.
Yeah, the payment that he's going to get is the chief.
We were clear. Tony didn't get clear.
Percentage when I spoke with him.
Oh, not an amount.
For a percentage.
No, it's an
How we-
amount.
So
I
I will convey
You
that.
can't really, well, I suppose you could do a percentage, I mean, it can be percentage
Yeah.
down, but I think it was a,
I mean, the budget has the numbers. I don't know if he was looking for us to articulate the exact number.
Is this the current budget, I mean, the current levels
I
that
think
we're
you said
talking about?
we're going to pay whatever the chief was making.
Whatever the chief is making. I mean,
Yeah.
the budget has 118,522,
Based on
and the
118%.
deputy's
Yeah.
salary is 94,212.
Right.
So the stipend is the difference
Yes.
Yeah.
on a bi-weekly
That's what they
basis.
did the last
Yep.
time.
Bi-weekly basis. is that
Yes,
right?
yes,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
So is there a motion to move to executive session?
You have a motion.
We do. I make a motion to hire candidate Frankie Sapion as a member of the Woodbridge Police Department.
Second.
For a second. All those in favor? There are 4 of us remaining at the meeting. The records reflect that.
I'd also like to make a motion instructing our town attorney to write Officer Mark DiMatteo a letter requesting or giving him a specific time period of 2 weeks to enter his papers for retirement or risk further action by the board.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? All those against? 1 abstention. And I think that
I
covers
think that's
everything.
it, right?
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
For a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Moving on to the Traffic Authority.
Maybe we're gonna have, we're gonna have the citizens come
Sure.
in, yep.
Oh, you go get it, Chief?
Wait, you want to tell us
Okay.
what,
Right, you wanna just tell them?
yeah, what are they going to talk to us about?
Hazel, it's Hazel Terrace.
Well,
Hi.
Aye.
Oh, hi. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Antonucci.
Hi.
This is my mom, Josephine.
Hello, Josephine.
And this is Wendy Glenn, our neighbor.
Hi.
We're all from Hazel Terrace.
Welcome to the Woodbridge Traffic Authority, our January 5th, 2006 meeting. Is there a public comment anyone wishes to make? Is there a comment that you wish to make to the commission?
I have a request.
Okay.
Okay. Our neighbors the residents on Hazel Terrace, we are requesting no parking signs in front of our properties because we're being overrun by the commercial properties who are conducting businesses in buildings with grossly inadequate parking. Specifically, we're having a problem with the dance studio, and it was determined by zone and planning as a condition of their permit that they utilize an alternative parking space which is a parking lot that's available on the corner of June Street and Hazel Terrace, which is owned by Albert Realty, who also owns the building that houses a dance studio. It's been well over a year since that stipulation was made by Zoning and Planning, and never once has there been any conformity with that plan or verbal contract. And as a result, we have the dance studio is in operation 6 days a week, and they can be opened until 9:30, and they are habitually, constantly, and persistently parking in front of our properties. And when they get in and out of their car, they're trespassing on our property. Their children are using our property as a playground. In some instances, they park behind and in front of our driveway, where we're unable to exit the driveway. We can't exit it because we cannot see oncoming traffic. And if I do exit it and cause an accident, it's going to be my fault. In the event of an emergency, a situation like that, we're stuck. We can't really leave. I'm the only driver. My mom is 93. She doesn't drive. I can't get out and see if traffic's coming and drive the car at the same time. In addition, the street is so narrow that when they park on the street, they cannot negotiate a U-turn. So they're going back and forth to turn around. They're stopping the flow of traffic. Cars are piling up. One night in January, the entire street was a total traffic jam with bumper-to-bumper traffic. And it wrapped all around June Street. And there was literally no access to Hazel Terrace. We're a dead-end street. There's only one access, and that's from June Street. And my neighbor also is having the same problem. They park in front of his driveway. On both sides of the driveway, they can't get in, they can't get out. With the parking on the street, and patrons come, they stop in front of the dance studio, they open and closing car doors, people getting in and out. Sometimes only one car can just squeeze through. And in an event of emergency vehicles are not going to be able to get through. So they're violating the law. They're trespassing on our property. They have violated their verbal contract and conditions of permit set with zoning and planning. So we met with zoning and planning last month. They read my correspondence, and they verbally said that they felt our request for no parking signs was reasonable, and that they agreed that we have rights also. We are a residence. We do not have commercial insurance. We have homeowner insurance. So this whole situation is jeopardizing public safety, our well-being, our sanity, and places us at risk for liability. Every time they are on our property, there is potentially a liable situation there. We have adults that congregate on our property. They're socially interacting. We have children that get out of parked cars, come on the property, doing gymnastics. We have small children, 5 and 6 years old, who are running back and forth from the dance studio, back and forth on our property, sometimes unsupervised by adults. I mean, it's outrageous. And if the town is going to sanction trespass, then the town of Woodbridge is breaking the law. That's the way I see it. There's no coexistence here. There's an abusive relationship. I mean, the commercial property is being allowed by the town of Woodbridge to conduct a business that is using, for profit, by using our property, which they don't have the right to do. No one has the right to do here. So we're asking for no parking signs. Either give us no parking signs or close down the dance studio. Those are the only options. We did not want to be to the point where we were asking for the dance studio to close. So we thought a reasonable solution would be no parking signs. And sure, the police may have to come down and help us out in the beginning, but I think if people got tickets or a warning sign a few times, and they do have the option of parking in the other parking lot, I think that would pretty much remedy the situation. True, we may have to call the police more than they would like, but we can't allow this to go on either. We have homeowner insurance. We're not a commercial business. We do not have commercial insurance. You know, you're placing us at risk for liability. And plus all the safety hazards. I mean, we have the right to use our property as residential. We were there since 1945, well before there was a commercial area. And since the town has allowed all this commercial and all this development, they don't seem to have the ability to plan. They don't have the ability to assess what change of use of in a building is going to do to the rest of the neighborhood or repercussions, or they are incompetent, or they choose to ignore the situation. There aren't too many choices here, but there's a failure on behalf of the town.
You spoke to Ray about this, right?
Yeah, I mean, and then before, they came down, when you were in executive session, I explained to them. Right now, I'm having a traffic study conducted, and I explained to them.
Could you just clarify
The
that
traffic
for me?
issues are-
Where, I'm looking at a map here, where exactly is the dance studio?
I
It's
have
about halfway up
a
on the
map.
right-hand side on Hazel
Of Hazel
It's on
Terrace.
Hazel Terrace.
It's to
It's
the
actually
rear,
on Hazel Terrace?
it's on Hazel
Is that
Terrace. It's to the rear.
Uzima Wellness?
Is it near Nick Mellos, MD?
What is that?
Hazel
There's so,
Terrace
there's so
is
many
behind-
businesses in there.
I'm
We don't
looking
even
at
know
it
what's
now.
there.
I'm curious,
Yeah,
where is it on
It's
the-
about halfway up on the right-hand
Yeah,
side.
the right-hand
There's
side.
actually 12 spaces right in front of the dance studio. Well, it's 13 spaces.
May I approach and share this
Yeah.
with you?
Thank you.
This is provided, this is from the town of Woodbridge.
Thank
This
you.
is
And I
official.
have a question for you. If there,
Thank you.
if our traffic study and we agree with the no parking signs, how will that address the problem of little children running around? Because that's a concern.
Well, if that continues, we will contact our attorney.
Okay.
We will have a letter written
where-
to Albert Realtor and the dance
Okay.
studio.
Where's the-
We've
okay.
already consulted
Good.
with an attorney.
Yeah.
All right, this is our residence, 7 Hazel Terrace. Okay. Let's see. This is the corner of June, this is June Street, this is Hazel Terrace. The dance studio is located here at 17
So it's on the
Hazel
other
Terrace.
side.
So that, we're talking about, can I circle this here?
Sure.
Okay, so that's
Sure,
the dance
you
studio.
may have this copy. These are the parking spaces allocated, one of which is for handicap. However, it's used constantly for parking.
And where's
It's
so
a
they're
lot.
parking here? So they're parking here in front of your
Yes,
property?
they're parking in front of my property here, all of 7 Hazel Terrace, which is 210 feet. They are parking in front of my neighbor's property, which he's at 14 Hazel Terrace. They're parking in front of this property. They're parking all the way up to 30 Hazel Terrace, which is owned by another business. They're using their parking lot.
Where's the lot that they should use?
Here, the lot, this lot here is what was designated.
Okay.
You're having a police officer evaluate.
Yeah, I'm having Officer
I just-
Rich Azudi do
You may-
the traffic study.
you may have that.
Basically, there's several different issues here. Some of them are traffic related, some of them are not. My concern is that although one of the viable solutions is to put no parking signs there. It might not be the one that we want.
Maybe.
So I explained to them, I says, let me get the study done, let's get it done, and we'll come out with
When should it be done?
recommendation. Hopefully before the end of the week.
Okay.
He should have all the information. I mean, he's contacting zoning, he's contacting DOT, we're getting all, looking at the whole picture.
So we should have a much,
instead of just
a
no
much
parking
broader
signs.
picture of the situation by next commission meeting.
Correct.
Does the owner
No.
of the studio direct people, tell them park in the designated places?
I'm sorry?
Does the owner of the studio direct people to park in the designated
No.
spots?
No, they're totally uncooperative. We have had 3 meetings with zoning and planning. Both Albert Realty and the dance studio are aware of this problem. They agreed, Albert Realty and the dance studio agreed to use the parking spaces located at the other office building located on June and Hazel Terrace. They have never once used that parking area. As you can see, 7 Hazel Terrace, we are sandwiched between both buildings. I have a clear view of both buildings every night.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what may be a fair way to move ahead is to have one of our officers conduct this study, and then we can regroup shortly and figure out.
I don't see where that is necessary. I have called the police when we've had these problems, and each police officer has a different view.
I
And
understand
I
that, but
don't really think that no one seems to grasp the gravity of the
But that would be
situation.
the purpose of the parking, of the traffic study. It's
Which
not,
would be-
it's
I
not
don't-
gonna be a single officer's view. Maybe you could explain what a
So
traffic
just-
study is?
It's going to
Yeah,
be a
I
very
mean-
broad study so that we have more information so we can, speak intelligently about it.
In
and come
order
up
to
with
put no
solutions for you.
parking signs, we probably need the study, and it'll be done within 72 hours.
Correct.
So
Ms.
only
Iannucci, just
a
like
few
I
hours.
explained to you out in the hallway, I says, when that study comes down, then we can make a decision, and I can make an educated, decision that I can come to this board and tell them and recommend that. Prior to that, we're not gonna make any recommendations for anything to be done down there unless we have reasons why we wanna do them. I explained that to you, and I thought that you understood.
I'm sorry, sir, but the thing that really is frankly annoying me is that you keep on referring to you having a reason to do it. There is a reason to do it. This is not something that is solely devoid of the rest of the world. What I'm trying to say to you,
We will-
this is
We're not
a
trying to
very
discount- We're not
this is-
discounting what you're saying.
this
No,
is
we'll
a
come up with
very
a solution.
obvious problem of constant trespass.
We agree, and that's why we're doing this as quickly as possible. The only way we as a commission can authorize no parking signs is to have the study done as soon as possible by the end of this week, which is only 72 hours. Then as soon as we can, we meet, we'll make a plan. So we're doing this as quickly as possible because we take you so seriously. So we don't doubt a word that you're saying. We're just not able to do more without going through this formality. But it's because we hear you that we're doing it now.
Before somebody gets injured or some child gets
Well,
hurt.
The record should reflect that, Ms. Antonich, you had called me, and we had a discussion about this. I know one of the members of the Board of Selectmen had given you my number to contact
Yes.
me. I know you may have seemed like you were bounced around. This is the final destination, and this is where what you're asking for, this is the group that will address that.
Yes.
We have the authority to do that, and we will address it, I promise you.
I
And I also
understand that.
encourage you to send the request to my attention, so at least we can make it part of our agenda, which is what we did. I appreciate your comments. They were coherent, they were powerful, and we're going to have one of our officers do a traffic study. We need to do that to reach a conclusion. I know you may think that it's obvious, we may come up with the same conclusion, but just give us the opportunity to evaluate it. This is the first time we've addressed this, and we will do it promptly. Our next meeting is the first Tuesday in February, and I don't see why this couldn't be on the agenda for that meeting. So I thank you very much for your comments, and I promise you that we will address it next meeting. You're certainly encouraged to attend. And, we'll give you the results of the of the study.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, I hope, thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
I'll keep,
Are there any other issues on?
Excuse me, sir. My neighbor, who wasn't able to be here because he had to work, also asked me to provide these photographs to you,
Okay.
which I forgot
Do you want to leave
about.
them with us?
Who would like them?
I'll take.
Would you kindly forward those to
Let me just take.
I'd rather give.
Officer Rizzuti?
Thank you.
Yes.
We will give those to the officer doing the traffic study.
All right, this is only on 14 Hazel Terrace. They're not photographs. Did you receive my letter? Yes.
What's the name of the studio? Just.
The Russell Dance Studio.
Here it is, there's something Russell. And we can keep these.
Yes.
Thank
and
you.
There's
That's great.
more photographs
Thanks.
in the letter that I
Great.
sent to
Thanks so much.
But
Mr.
this is
Burke.
where they're supposed to go.
Yes, this is the parking
I
lot.
know this property well because my seamstress is there.
Oh, we're going to her soon. She's
So
There
dynamite.
you
we
go.
are. But there's always plenty of spaces there.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Actually, we'll refer those to Officer Rizzuti. If you could make this part of the package.
Yes, there's more
All
pictures
that,
in there.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
letting
again.
us know.
You're welcome.
You can call me. You got my,
I will. You'll be sorry.
I'm not gonna.
Good thing you
We'll
have
get
a
it.
good sense of humor.
We'll get it taken.
I don't, because I'm very frustrated.
We will.
And very, very, very stressed out, as is my neighbor.
Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
One
Good night.
final-
You all have
Thank
a
you,
nice
Mom,
New
for coming
Year.
out on this
Take care.
cold
Thank you.
night.
Good New Year.
Good night, thank you so much.
Good night.
So you just have Evangeline update.
I'm just close to getting
Kids running out there.
Yes.
She just wants something.
Here's the map.
I'd appreciate you listening to this.
Yes, so you
I think that's
can-
but-
They fall as we're gonna sit.
Yes, I will.
Should we close the door?
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Deborah.
Landon Street is just an update where they're gonna go Board of Selectmen just to get the funding for the project. It's all been engineered, everything's done. Tony said they may need me to go over there to explain it a little bit better, but it's the engineer's project and Warren Connors. So it's all good.
Okay.
Hopefully with, probably in the springtime, they'll have the speed humps and the
I don't
speed
know
table
that
on
for
Landon
Landon.
Street, and I'm hoping it slows traffic down. Just it's a lot.
Is there a motion to adjourn the traffic authority?
You have a motion to adjourn.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. Quickly, a motion to reopen the January 5th, 2016 Board of Police Commissioner meeting.
So moved.
The second? Second, all those in
Either
favor?
or.
Aye. The record should reflect that there were no members of the public here when we adjourned, so there was no one that's in jeopardy of missing this aspect of it. I don't recall we had an issue with the pay for Officer Sapio.
Pay grade
Right.
vacation.
So is there a motion to,
To list him as a B-level
B-level
officer with
officer.
1 week vacation.
I won't speak.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
That's what I voted.
Unanimous. Motion to adjourn. Second, all those in favor? Unanimous. We're adjourned.